Good morning, Julian Hicks here, Tabletop Castles. I want to show you a few tricks and tips for how to get the best out of your castle boxes when you first construct them. First time you put them together, it's worth spending a little bit of extra time. There's also one or two small bits and pieces, particularly regarding the castle tower top, which I think to get the best from it you're going to have to use some glue. I'd hoped that wasn't going to be the case, however this is where we are. So first off, let's deal with the easy one, castle wall box. Now with this, all you really need to do is to fold the box in both directions, so you're giving a good crease. And then with regards to the flaps, it's worth over folding all the flaps. So you can see there I'm folding that in almost tight, doing each flap on its own, giving it a little extra crease. Now with the box lid, you can see again, fold the flap tight, then fold the whole lid inside, and fold that tight, pull it back out. When you put it together then, because the tab is quite tight the first few times you use it, I would suggest pressing the box down onto a firm surface like that. You get a nice tight close on it. Again, same the other end, over fold, so you're folding the flaps each in turn back on itself. Now with the castellations, if you're planning on using the wall box with the castellations, which most of you will be most of the time, then the crease line you want to fold is the one that's halfway up the holes. So you can see the holes here, there's a crease line halfway along those holes. So we'll just fold it on that. Again, fold it back, press it along all the joins, move that out of the way. We've got everything folded in. Same again then with the lid. Fold it and give it a little press, pop it back out. First off then, tuck in the castellation flap, and then before you fold the side flaps in, just the first few times, pull the castellation out of the way slightly as you fold the flap in. Same again the other end, pull it out of the way a little bit, fold it in. Then when you construct the box, you get a nice tight castle wall. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Exactly the same applies now when you're dealing with the tower box. First of all, go through the process of, in turn, just over folding and making sure that the creases follow the crease lines. Again, with the top of the box, and when you fold that box lid inside, make sure you've got a good firm crease. So you can see that. And again, take it out. Right, now onto the bottom. When you fold the bottom of the box, a couple of the sides, the bigger sides, are pretty safe. When you fold the smaller sides, the one that have this slope coming right down to the edge, just make sure that what you're creasing is the whole of the width of the flap, so including that little bit at the end there. Just make sure that it goes on the crease all the way across. Again, do that same thing with the other one there. Okay, so we've done folded all the bottom. Now the way to put this together is the biggest flap, the one with the side bits. This goes in first, the side flaps push in, and you can see they click, they lock in. You're left now with the big flap with its tab. You have to bend that, tuck the flap under, and push it all home. Once it's in there, give it a little push from the inside just to get it all nice and flat. Check that everything lines up well and that it sits nice and square. Okay, now the tricky bit. With the got two here. With the castellated top, firstly you'll notice that the technical term, the chads, are still in place here. So we'll pop those out of the way, but keep them to one side, and I'll show you why I want you to keep them in a moment or two. These will To most extent they'll fall out pretty easily. If they don't, just make sure you don't tear too much. Right, again, we've got a number of crease lines marked in this. If you put it down face up, so the writing on the box is facing you, and then fold, get a nice tight crease, and again here, so you get a nice tight crease. Now with this one, you've now got to fold along the line, and I'd sort of do each piece on its own, and then give that a nice firm crease. Same thing on the other side. And with this one again, now you've got this extra flap which folds in, and we get it all nicely creased up. With the longer edge, you want those corners creased pretty tightly, like, if you can see that, like so. And obviously just make sure the flap's bent round as well on the ends of that. Right, now what you're going to need to do is you are going to need to do a bit of gluing here, because to hold this together we're going to need to glue it. Now I'm using a quick drying craft glue, but basically this is a white PVA glue. Many other brands are available. So the first thing you want to do, I've got it now, I've got the top box upside down, so the writing on the print is now face down. We're going to deal with the short edge first. If you fold over this flap, so you've got the tiny little flap, the glue flap as it is in fact, and you're going to run a little bit of glue, quite a small amount, just along that edge. If you can see that there, so you've got a little bit of glue there. The only other piece that you're going to glue at the same time is you're going to glue, I suggest doing a sort of T-shaped line that doesn't go past the two holes, because we want to keep that open to tuck the flaps into. So we've got a little bit of glue in a T shape there, and we've got a little bit of glue on the flap, and we're then going to fold all that over, stick it down, holding it in the middle, because we've glued the middle castellation as it were, and then going to have to give that obviously a few minutes to dry. If we leave that one for a moment, make sure I haven't got any other glue on the fingers. If you get a bit of PVA glue on the face on the printed side, because of the matte laminate, it will come off pretty easily. So obviously the ideal thing to do is to pop something heavy on this for as long as it takes your glue to set. I would not recommend using your coffee cup. However, I've used my coffee cup. Right, now with regards to the other edge, the long castellated edge, it doesn't matter which of the two halves you glue, but effectively you're going to do a little bit going down into each of the castellations. You're going to steer clear of the flap. You're going to make sure that you run a bit of glue around in the corners. So if I can show you that there. I don't know how well you'll be able to see the glue on there, but effectively I've gone a little way down, across, down, across, down, across, down, all the way along. And then again, just as we did with the other one, you're going to fold that in. However, before it dries, you want to hold your box up, and you want to put a bit of an angle into those two corners. So you want to have your middle section straight. You don't need to fold it all the way around to 90 degrees. I found that about 45 degrees. And then you're going to be holding these flaps while the glue sets at about 45 degrees. Several ways of doing this. I found that you can hold it sort of, so you're pressing each one in turn down onto the ground. That seems to work quite well. Again, keep that angle something around 45 degrees, and keep doing that to the 3 edges in turn, making sure you're going to the top of each castellation so that the glue sets equally along all of them, and we get a nice tight join that doesn't bulge, because if we don't do this, you're going to get bulgy tops. Now it's not a disaster, but I don't like the look of them with bulgy tops, so I would strongly suggest that you go through this process. I know we were hoping that with this project there was going to be no glue involved. When the printers talked to me about where to put the self-adhesive strips onto the glue, they couldn't. They basically they couldn't do what I wanted them to do, which was frustrating because they'd managed it with a prototype. But anyway, there was a slightly different process involved. So what we're doing is just going around and making sure that all of those edges are pretty well glued. Now I accept that this is going to take you a few minutes with each of your castle tops, but spending the time when you initially construct them, i.e. the first time you put them together, and although we're now gluing this, as I say, it still falls pretty flat. It's not going to take a lot of room to store this, even though in fact you've got 2 pieces of material folded over and glued. Right, I think that glue is nearly dry, but obviously ideally, you know, if one was making up your 4, 6, 8 tower tops, you'd glue on, go through all of this process, and then pop it underneath a nice heavy book, so that it sets. Well, I'm going to carry on regardless. So the next stage then is to fix this onto the tower top, and again this is quite important, the way that you do this. So you get the printed face and you get the flap of the box, and you slide the printed face behind the flap of the box so that it's sitting just there, and then you fold the box flap, and I suggest what you do is you take that box flap with the box in an upright position, with the flap in an upright position, and you fold that flap right over. Then close down the box flaps, pop the whole thing home, so you close the box, and as long as the glue is dry, as long as the glue is dry, that won't happen. Right, so you're then looking at just taking each of the flaps and tucking them in to the section that you've not glued. Don't worry about pushing them absolutely tight home yet. And just check that the corners are coming up fairly square at the front there. And then obviously jiggle them about. I mean, the first few times you press these things home, they are a quite tight fit. I'm going to slip that off the box for a moment now. They're quite a tight fit, but it's worth trying to do it gently, because obviously if you start off the process with creases in the wrong places, then it's harder to solve the problems later. So it's just a case of working it in a little bit at a time, etc, etc. Okay, so what we then need to deal with is the fact that for some strange reason, between my prototype boxes and the production boxes, the printers saw fit to remove a little bit too much of the flap. Not quite sure how this happened. The only remedy that I had was to remake all of the tower boxes, and for the amount of extra work involved, that was quite an expensive process. What I'm suggesting as a worthwhile fix is, remember I said hang on to some of those little bits of card that come out from the crenelated top. What I'm going to suggest you do is that you glue a couple of those tabs, and you're going to glue them onto the flap. what you're really doing here is making the rounded corner on the flap square. And the reason for that is it just gives a slightly more satisfying close to the box. You don't want to have, when you glue them, this edge of the flap sticking out past the edge of the box lid. You want to have it either in line or just fractionally inside. And you want those flaps, when you put them on, you want to have the box lid folded at 45 degrees, just at 90 degrees, just so that you're not putting this flap into the corner where the box lid folds. So effectively you're going to end up with a couple of these glued onto the corner. I'm going to do that now. Again, little blob of craft glue on each one, not too much, don't want it squirting out everywhere, and then making sure that you've got the flap folded, jockey it about, make sure it's not protruding, as I said, from that. I'm going to do this because the spread's still best. So you want them folded, glued like that, and pick up the other one without getting too much glue on my fingers. Same thing again with that folded, just line up the edge. I'd recommend using a craft glue, not super glue, because you get a few seconds to adjust it. Make sure that you're happy that it's actually either in line or just inside the edge. Fractionally inside is a good idea. And then again, allow those to dry. Just check that we've got everything set down here now on the castellation. Okay, and again, pop the castellation onto the box, fold to make sure it's intact. Working where I've got a situation here where the flap is a tiny bit wide for the slot that it's going into, so it's starting to want to bend and make an extra crease. I would suggest very, very carefully and gently using a scalpel or a pair of scissors, and just take a tiny bit off, just a little bit off one of the two edges, just a little bit. That'll just help to ensure the castellation goes in, the flap goes in tight there. We'll have a look now, see whether that needs to be done on the other one as well. Well, it doesn't seem so bad on that one, but I think we'll do a tiny bit nonetheless. So I'm cutting off the tiniest sliver just from the flap. I hope you can see that. I'm doing it at a bit of an angle because that's making it easier for the flap to slide home into its slot. Okay, we check that we've got those two sections at the top there. Make sure that's all folded over. Now, I'm not actually going to push this in because I've got a little bit of excess glue here that hasn't quite dried yet. I don't want to put it in and close the box because I'll glue it together, which would be an unfortunate thing to do, particularly if you're hoping to be able to fold it flat. So we'll just clean up the excess bit there, and then the end result is that, again, through careful and gentle twiddling, and all of this is about the first few times you put the boxes together, because they will ease as you use them, so it will gradually become an easier and smoother process, and then you should end up with a tower top that looks like this. Now, some of you will notice that there are quite visible white lines. The edges of the card are visible. However, you know, there's a separate video up here where I show how just to use a pen to mark those. Anyway, there we go. I hope that'll help you all get the best out of your castles. Thank you very much for watching.